All right, now let's move on to talk about leadership, particularly strategic leadership. And now, this development is a critical aspect to all organisations, but it's often the one that is overlooked. So, how do you become the best leader for your team while maintaining your day to day responsibilities and your own life as well? So, let's talk to Kalloo. Kyle, thanks so much for your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, Kyle, you're the CEO of Change My Life Coaching and Partner Group. So I'm really interested to know, why do leaders come to you?
That's a great question. Oftentimes we do focus on the employees, right? And rightfully so. The employees do a lot of heavy lifting and they're so forgiving when it comes to the leadership. However, what we saw since COVID kind of hit everyone is leaders also needed support as well. And there's quite a few times that we sometimes leave the leaders behind. So the leaders that are coming to me are really about how do they be more strategic? How do they help themselves? Because oftentimes they're the ones left with that bag, right?
Yeah, I mean, as you just mentioned, I guess the focus has been a lot on employees. And obviously, we're working in a very challenging work environment. The stress is high. Many of us have been working from home for 18 months. So, how can leaders equip their workforce remotely?
Yeah, that's a great thing. Let me just step back just for 1 second just to explain this. When COVID hit, everyone thought technology was going to be the biggest issue. How many of us even thought 2020 was going to be our year? And then obviously COVID-19 hit. And so a lot of people were left scrambling to figure out all that stuff. But the part that really impacted us the most was we're missing the connection. And we've heard that already from the previous person you just chatted with, right? Is about how do we really connect? So for the leaders, it's really about how do we make sure we engage, we connect, and as well as adapt. That's the piece that, and we've heard about pivoting, and people probably may be so saturated with that word right now, pivoting, but it's what is really necessary for us to be able to be adaptive. So those would be the three things I would say is engage, connect, and adapt.
Yes, well, it's not just about the Wi-Fi connection there, is it? The people are 100% more important. But, how do you actually master this crucial, art of being so engaging and sometimes having these difficult conversations, over Zoom, or sometimes if you are allowed to, especially where you are over there, you'll be able to have these conversations in person.
Yeah, because what's happening for a lot of leaders is they're missing the opportunity for someone to just pop in, right, to their office, or for them to walk the hall, so to speak, and say, hey, good morning, what's happening? And so what we have to do is to be quite deliberate, either Zoom or phone call. That's the other thing that we saw. A lot of people didn't want to just get on the telephone and have a conversation. They wanted to Zoom or to use Teams or what have you. They wanted that FaceTime. So what I would say is we have to be deliberate, even more so, and make it something that you prioritize by scheduling. Not a one-off, but make it deliberate. Every week, have those set meetings with your team that they get to hear you and see you, and you also get a chance to pick up on it. And sometimes we may think that, we talked last week, I think they were good. Sometimes people may be hesitant to reach out, right? One of the phrases I really like to keep top of mind for a lot of the leaders I work with, we often hear we have an open door policy, right? Leaders will say, hey, I have to open door policy. But one thing I remind leaders is that the policy is not just the doors open for the employees to walk in, it's for you to walk out. So there's times that the leader has to be specific about setting up those touch points, and it has to be frequent. So weekly would be my recommendation as the minimum. Even if it's just to get on, and if we do a quick chat for 5, 10 minutes, that's fine. You don't need the 60-minute or anything like that I think some people wait to have these big team meetings.
And what about leaders? As you mentioned, I guess setting boundaries is very important, but is there a time where perhaps you can be too overbearing when it comes to communication and contact? Like, what do you think is the best way to have that friendly relationship, but also maintain that leadership within your team?
For sure. Back to what I was just saying, if it's scheduled and it's regular, then as a leader, I know I'm going to be chatting with you by the end of this week. I know I'm going to be chatting with Susie Bell on Monday morning. So I can actually wait for those moments to ensure a very productive conversation. Instead of what usually happens is interruptions. oh my goodness, I need to chat with Brittany about something. So let me just get on the phone and chat with her. Oh, there's something else. There's something else. So I think the boundary is not necessarily, hey, this is my workspace. I want to do, work in that time. It's more about if I know there's consistency, I know there's a schedule, I know that it gives the other person the opportunity to manage their workload because they know they're going to have a chat with me, even if it's 5-10 minutes. And oftentimes you just getting in front of it and you as the leader making that decision to do it, then the employee won't have to worry about, oh, I should reach out, or I shouldn't, do I reach out, do I not reach out? Because sometimes we know from the employee side of it, they're somewhat hesitant to pick up the phone or get on a Zoom call or what have you and have a meeting. But you as a leader taking that proactive approach will be 10 times more effective than waiting.
And what are your final tips to take on this proactive approach and I guess bring that motivation to the team?
Absolutely. Here's the thing. A lot of times some people think motivation's on the leaders, right? It's the leader's responsibility to motivate their team. And that's not actually true. It's how do I equip my team to be self-motivating? How do I make sure they're doing the things that they need to do? So what I would say to the leaders, find out what motivates them. Find out where they find fulfillment. And do you do your best to create an environment to actually create it? And here's the thing. Leaders need support too. So if you work with a leader who's doing the best they can and they're doing a good job, if you're on the front line, tell them, say, listen, I really appreciate what you did yesterday because that encouragement does go a long way. And if all fails, then definitely engage a coach who can actually help you to be a little bit more strategic.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your tips and insights today, Kyle. We appreciate your time. We'll chat soon.
Cheers.